In 1987, Arnold Schwarzenegger walked into a jungle with the most jacked squad ever assembled on film. And he wasn't even carrying the biggest gun. That honor went to Jesse Ventura, former Navy frogman, wielding a weapon that would later end up back in Arnold's own hands for one of the most iconic shots in 1990s action cinema. But Ol Painless isn't even the most surprising story in this lineup. The grenade launcher hanging under Arnold's own rifle had already survived one of the most quoted scenes in Hollywood history on a completely different film 4 years earlier. But first, let's start with the weapons that almost every commando in this squad is carrying, and why none of them are what they appear to be. When Dutch's rescue team drops out of that helicopter, the weapons you notice first aren't the minigun. They're the compact, aggressive-looking submachine guns carried by most of the commandos. They're dressed up on screen as MP5A3s, and in 1987, the MP5 was the gold standard of special operations firearms. It had earned its reputation in 1977 when GSG-9 and SAS operators used it to storm a hijacked Lufthansa airliner in Mogadishu, rescuing 86 hostages in under 8 minutes. Hollywood noticed, and through the 1980s, the MP5 became the go-to weapon for any screen commando worth his headband. But here's the prop truth. The guns in Predator aren't MP5s at all. They're civilian Heckler & Koch HK-94A3 rifles, the semi-auto, legally importable version, with their barrels cut down and trigger groups converted to full auto fire. Prop armorers did this regularly in the 1980s because genuine submachine guns required federal licensing that rental houses found easier to route around. Look closely and you can spot the tells. No 3-lug barrel, no paddle magazine release, no pushpin set. Dead giveaways to any HK enthusiast. Mac reaches for something heavier, a weapon built not for precision, but for the kind of firepower that turns grief into noise. Sergeant Mac Elliott's weapon of choice is the M60 E3 machine gun, and it fits the character perfectly. The M60 had been the US military's standard general-purpose machine gun since 1957, earning its grim nickname, the Pig, from the soldiers who carried it through Vietnam, a reference to its weight and its appetite for ammunition. The E3 variant, introduced in the early 1980s, brought real improvements. Lighter bipod, better feed tray, a more manageable barrel profile. Mac's version in Predator has that barrel shortened even further by the armorers, making it suited for jungle movement. The scene where Mac empties the weapon into the tree line after Blaine is killed is one of the most viscerally raw moments in the film. Hundreds of rounds tearing through the trees, not because there's a target, but because there's nothing else left to do. The M60 is the weapon of a man who has stopped thinking. Not every weapon in this film is built for volume of fire. One of them is built for something stranger, a solution to a problem nobody else was trying to solve. Billy carries something you won't find in any standard issue armory. An M16A2 rifle with a full Mossberg 500 pump-action shotgun bolted underneath the barrel. Not a compact, purpose-built underbarrel unit. A full civilian Mossberg 500 with an 18.5-inch barrel, protruding well beyond the rifle's muzzle. The concept has a name in military circles. The U.S. Army's M26 modular accessory shotgun system, developed decades later, was designed to mount under an M4 carbine for breaching doors and close quarters work. Billy's setup predates that by about 20 years, and it's considerably less elegant. The Mossberg's tang safety sits in an almost unreachable position when the gun is mounted, and the weight distribution of the combined weapon is genuinely terrible. It's the most quietly odd weapon in the entire film, carried by the character who speaks the fewest words. Billy's rifle is unusual, but Dutch's is the one carrying a secret that connects this jungle to a completely different film, and a scene you almost certainly know by heart. Dutch carries another AR variant, dressed up with M16A1 birdcage flash hiders to look more current. But what's hanging beneath Dutch's barrel is where the real story lives. That chunky launcher looks like an M203 grenade launcher, and it's filmed as one. It is not one. The real M203 had been in U.S. military service since 1969, developed as the answer to a Vietnam-era problem. Infantry squads needed grenade capability without sacrificing a rifleman. The solution was a single-shot 40mm launcher that bolted beneath the barrel of an M16, letting the grenadier carry both weapons at once. By 1987, it had fought in Vietnam, Grenada, and Lebanon. A proven combat tool with a 437-yard maximum range and a kill radius of 5 meters per high explosive round. But here's what makes this prop genuinely remarkable. It had already been on screen 4 years earlier, strapped under Tony Montana's AR-15 in Scarface. After that film wrapped, it went to Heartbreak Ridge in 1986, and then directly to the set of Predator in 1987. There is one weapon on this list that needed a harness, a hidden power cable, and a drastically reduced rate of fire just to survive the shoot. And after the cameras stopped rolling, it didn't retire. It just changed hands. Blaine Cooper calls it Ol Painless, and the name is either ironic or wishful thinking. The M134 Minigun is a 6-barrel rotary machine gun developed by General Electric. Yes, the same company that makes household appliances. Originally designed for aircraft and helicopter use during the Vietnam era. At full operational capacity, it fires at up to 6,000 rounds per minute, a rate so extreme the barrels would be invisible on camera. For Predator, the rate was dialed back to 1,250 RPM, so director John McTiernan could actually see the barrels turning on film. Even so, a special harness was built to shift the weapon's 85-pound weight onto Jesse Ventura's shoulders. And the power cable, the M134 runs on electricity, not gas, was hidden down his trouser leg to a bank of truck batteries kept off camera. Ventura described the experience as firing a chainsaw. What matters is the legacy. After Predator wrapped, the M134 prop was modified and handed to the very man who'd been standing next to it in the jungle, Arnold Schwarzenegger, for Terminator 2: Judgment Day in 1991. The same gun, 4 years later, a different film, a different war. Ol Painless never retired. It just changed hands. From converted civilian rifles dressed as MP5s to a shotgun nobody had any business bolting under an AR-15, to the fake launcher that had already survived Scarface, Predator's weapon props carry stories that outlast the film itself. And if you want more, John McTiernan went straight from this jungle to directing Die Hard the very next year, and took the exact same converted HK-94 props with him. That breakdown is already up on the channel. Check it out here.